Welcome dear all. Hope you will be fine at home. Dear students, we have already started with when, where and how. That is this chapter number 1 of civics in India and the modern world. Now we have studied, so we will be doing a short recap first of what we have studied in the previous video. In the previous video, we have studied about that how the features of modern age encouraged the people and different forces were there that made the change in the modern age. We have seen that the history is divided into 3 major parts, that is ancient, medieval and the modern period. And the modern period was a period where we saw different changes that was occurring in great and sweeping mode. These changes were the result of certain powerful forces that came in time to be recognized as a characteristic feature of the modern age. One by one we will revise it. The first one we studied about was industrialization, where we saw that how large-scale production took place by using different machines and power and using different technologies. Then we studied about urbanization, where people started moving from towns to urban areas, cities, so that they can get more employment opportunities and the better quality of life can be enhanced. The third one we studied was nationalism. The people in India started having feeling towards their country. They had their love growing identification with one's homeland. Some of the other features were democracy, where we had seen that the people were governed by a particular group of parties or the government. Then the other one was socialism, where we saw that the state tries to ensure equitable distribution of wealth. There means society in one hand was dividing each and everything into equal basis. These were also the features of modern age, because in modern time period also we can see that industrialization, as we can see now, industrialization occurs. Then we had scientific and technological progress. New innovation and discoveries at that time was revolutionizing human life. It enhanced the quality of life people were living with the use of technological progress. Then we studied about exploration. Now the people were more into technology, so they started research work and they started the search for new lands and the sea routes. Then we studied about humanism, where we saw a great concern for human welfare, dignity and values. So these were some of the features of modern age which led the modern age change drastically into a greater one. Then we saw some forces of change. What were the forces which were occurring inside the people and that led to the change in the modern era? So they were, first we studied about the Renaissance. Now the Renaissance was the movement that started in 14th century in Italy and it lasted till 17th century, and its meaning was a rebirth. Rebirth means the thinkers of that period or the people of that period were forced or were inhabitantly forced by the other people, and they were giving rise to scientific method of inquiry. So that is learning by questioning. When you are questioning again and again why this is happening, for what reason are we doing this, or why are we doing this kind of thing only, why cannot we do the alternative way? So when we are questioning, we are learning, we are actually raising our thinking to why this can happen and why that cannot happen. Then the other one was observation and experimentation. When you observe something, you try to do something new and you do some experimentation. So the Renaissance means it gave a rebirth among people and they started having something new inquiry into it. It encouraged people to think for themselves and question old beliefs and superstitions. So this is a very important point which we have studied, that it encouraged the people for themselves to question. Means those people at that time also, they were actually modernized now with the use of technology, but now they were actually thinking about the old beliefs that were told by the ancestors to them, and they were thinking why only those things we are believing, why not we are believing with the scientific way of method. So first change which brought in the modern era, or we can say that modern era mein ye changes aaye. So why these changes had come? Because these changes has come so that people were now a bit revolutionized and they were even questioning that why these things are happening. So the questioning made a change in them and they did something new. So that was the rebirth or the Renaissance. Then the second one which had a change force, or you can say that was a big force which brought a change, was the Industrial Revolution. Now, because it was a modern era and we were adopting new technologies, we studied that Industrial Revolution was an economic revolution, and it started in Britain around 1750. Explorers like Vasco da Gama and Columbus had already discovered sea routes to the east and to the Americans in the 15th and 16th centuries. This led to the expansion in trade. Now, because the sea routes were already developed, trade was taking place, and it gave an expansion also to the trade. As the demand for more products grew, the old domestic product or the old domestic system of artisans that working at home with simple tools. Now, there were people who were working with simple tools also and were manufacturing or producing something by sitting at their home itself. But later on, it was replaced with factory system, because now machines have taken place the factory system, and they were producing a bit good quality product. It was a bit faster one, and also at the fraction of cost. The Industrial Revolution completely changed the way people live. So when industries came up, it changed the life of people. Now people were more modernized, utilizing or taking those products which were of better quality and were manufactured from the factories and industries. One of the most important results of the Industrial Revolution was the growth of colonialism. That means colonialism had also played a very important role in Industrial Revolution. The factories were producing goods on large scale. For these goods to be sold, a large market was needed. The factories also needed raw materials like cotton, iron ore and coal on large scale. This prompted Britain and other European countries also. So for what happened, now factories so were emerging, but for factories to produce or manufacture a good quality product, raw materials are needed. So these factories also needed raw materials like cotton and iron ore and other things, and they were prompted, or this prompted Britain and other countries to give them few of the raw materials, because at that time we were not that much acquainted with growing of raw materials, and to the search of overseas for colonies as a market for finished goods and as a source of raw materials. So it gave a chance for the people to have it. Then we have American and the French Revolution and nationalism. Now this topic is very important, and this is the new topic. Now this we will be studying, like the American and the French Revolution is what you will be studying in 9th standard in detail, 9th and 10th standard. Over here a very short and a brief about these revolutions is given. The American and the French Revolution and the ideals of liberty, equality and fraternity they adopted changed the life of millions of people across the world. Now the liberty, equality and fraternity. Liberty means to be liberal, equality giving equality to each and everyone, and fraternity means the feeling of brotherhood was adopted, and these three brought a drastic change in millions of people, not in India but across the world as well. They inspired the people of many countries to rebel against domination and exploitation and to fight for freedom of democracy. So they now were inspired that we want liberalism, liberty should be there in the country, equality should be there in the country, people should not be discriminated, everyone should get equal opportunities in all the areas, and a feeling of brotherhood, a feeling of sense towards each other should be aroused. These revolutions led to the growth of another powerful movement. So these revolution, which revolution? American and the French Revolution. In America and in French, these revolutions took place, and it also led to the growth of another powerful movement in the 19th century Europe. So that was nationalism. Now what is nationalism? Nationalism is a strong feeling of love, pride and loyalty that people have for their country. I repeat, nationalism is a strong feeling of love, pride and loyalty that people have for their country. That means if I am having pride for my country, loyalty for my country, I am a person having nationalism for my country. And that was part, it inspired even the Indian people in the late 19th century to fight for the independence from British rule. And this feeling of love or the feeling of pride for the country inspired even the Indian people in the late 19th century, and then they started for the fighting and they fight for the independence, that we will no longer be under the rule of someone, rather we will be independent from the British rule. Now, this part is like force of change. The three things which force of change were: first change was the Renaissance, that gave a rebirth, the questioning gave. The second one what we studied was the means technology, how technology has brought into the changes, and it led to the Industrial Revolution. So now we will be studying about India in the modern world. Now, how India had acquired its place in the modern world. After Aurangzeb's death in 1707, the Mughal Empire went into a rapid decline. So after, we all know that Aurangzeb, we have studied in 7th standard, Aurangzeb was like very cruel and very strong emperor. But his empire went into decline when he died. The later Mughal rulers did not have the capabilities needed to hold the vast empire together. After he died, another people were not having that much capabilities like Aurangzeb to rule the empire. Powerful new kingdoms were established by the Marathas and the Sikhs. The rulers of Hyderabad, Awadh, Karnataka and Bengal ruled independently over the provinces. These new powers constantly fought for supremacy among themselves. Supremacy means each and everyone wanted to be superior. Everyone wanted that my emperor should rule the most. So Awadh, Hyderabad, Karnataka and Bengal ruled independently, and they were constantly fighting amongst each other that who is more superior and who can get the most one. This was also the time when merchants from Europe began establishing trading bases along India's coast. Very important line. This was also the time when merchants from Europe, now the merchants from Europe began establishing trading bases. Trading bases means they started trading along with the India's coast. In the course of time, the Europeans took advantage of the rivalries. Now, Europeans wanted to trade to India. So what they did, they took advantage of the rivalries among the Indian rulers and made their own bases stronger. The Europeans also fought among themselves for control over the hugely profitable trade with India. Soon the British had established themselves as the main power in India. Now the British established themselves as the main power because Europeans have came over here and they were also taking part in it. Within 100 years, they had moved from being mere traders to being the rulers. Now, slowly and slowly, first they were traders, only doing trade, coming and going. But later on, they turned themselves to be the rulers of the Indian subcontinent. They came over here, acquired each and everything from the people, and they took away from the Indian people all their treasures and started ruling in India. This year we will be learning about the impact of 200 years of British rule in India. Imagine 200 years Britishers have ruled in India, and actually we are at fault because we let the Britishers rule to India. If we could have taken the steps more earlier, hopefully we would have got independence before 1947, but unfortunately it has to be. So whatever 200 years of British rule was there, the Indians gradually came together to fight for their freedoms, and now India finally became free country in 1947. So this is how India in the modern world has to face the problems. Sources of information of modern history. What are the sources from which we can get information regarding modern Indian history? We will be doing in our next video. Till then, please have a revision of all the notes whatever we have done. Thank you.
Mommy.